Good morning and welcome to the Vic South Star Party Planetary Imaging and Processing session. Today, Paul Haese from the Astronomical Society of South Australia is going to run through how to image and process planetary images. Paul will run through a live process of data and share with us his final image. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments section and Paul will answer as many as possible. Also, don't forget to grab your tickets to our two raffles, one for our Skywatcher Star Adventurer 2 motorised mount, which was donated by TSA Outdoors, and one for the Ioptron Cube Pro with the tripod, which was donated by Sidereal Trading. So let's welcome Paul into the room. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Bit early in the morning.
Oh, closing in on lunchtime for us here, but no, it's still early. It's usually my wake-up time on a weekend, 11 a.m.
Yeah, yes.
So I'll hand over to you now to just run through what you're going to do today and let you get started and bring your screen up.
Okay, great. So just going to have a bit of a chat today about some elements of planetary imaging that aren't always immediately obvious to people. So essentially speaking, what I'd like to do is talk about a few of the items that we normally use: telescopes, cameras, a bit about seeing, a bit about capture, and then I'll have a bit of a live process of some data. So we'll go on straight away with the PowerPoint. So that's just a brief PowerPoint. We'll run through that and then we'll start looking at some of the data. So what we really need to discuss is telescopes. What sort of telescopes? Generally anything that's like a Newtonian or a catadioptric telescope. Can be somewhere between 8 inches and 20 inches. Can even be a metre. It depends on how much money you've got. But even 8-inch telescopes can produce rather respectable images. We don't need to worry too much about the particular design. My preference is for a catadioptric or a SCT, and that's my SCT there. Essentially speaking, what you really want to be thinking about is the bigger the better. The bigger the aperture, the more light you can get in, the faster you can take the frame rate. And of course, faster frame rates means that you can freeze the seeing better. Even on really good nights, you want to capture as many good sharp frames as possible. So next thing we want to talk about is the camera and what sort of equipment that you use. Now, I'm going to assume that you either use a Barlow or you don't use a Barlow in your setup to achieve a focal length of somewhere between 8,000 and 12,000 millimeters. Going beyond that is not very helpful in that it can slow down your frame rate quite considerably, especially if you have a smaller diameter. The cameras that are most popular these days are the ZWO cameras, although point grey research still produces quite good quality planetary imaging cameras. Most of them have quite low noise. They have very high frame rates, up to about 300 frames a second, but again, I need to temper that and say that all the high frame rate, it doesn't matter what the high frame rate is, it's the amount of light that you need and getting the right histogram. You can use a colour camera or a monochrome camera. Essentially, that's not too much of a problem. What you'd really like to do, and what's expedient for you. If you prefer to just take straight colour, then there'll be some limitations on how many frames you can capture and for how long. And I'll have a slightly different processing technique to what I'm going to show you today. Monochrome tends to have a better resolution overall, in that you take all red, all green, all blue, or all IR, or all methane for the various gas giants. bit about seeing. Seeing is not the transparency. It is how still the air is above you or above the telescope, more importantly, and that's a column going up out into space. It can be quite dramatic how the seeing can present itself. Sometimes it can be rather still. Now, I've included just a small section of what's called the Pickering scale. It's usually a 10-point system, but down the bottom there you can see on the left-hand side is quite poor seeing, then sort of around 1 or 2 out of 10 on the Pickering scale. Then the middle is about 5 out of 10, and then, of course, to the right is near perfect at 9 or 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 seeing is very rare. I do note that in recent years there's been high overestimation that I see in people's image details where they think it's 10 out of 10. The frame rate does make a considerable difference to what you determine as being 10 out of 10. And I'm going to show you a couple of videos that show what near perfect seeing looks like, as opposed to what mid-range seeing looks like. Good way people always ask me about how do you determine what the seeing's like. Okay, so on any given night, walk outside, have a look up, and look to near the horizon first. The stars generally twinkle there. As you look up and into this up above in the zenith, you should notice that the brighter stars, such as in this time of the year, you might see Sirius coming up, or some of the other lesser brighter stars, but those brighter stars will show some form of scintillation. That means that they'll flicker a little bit here and there. Just ensure that when you're looking up, if you see no flickering at all, then that's usually a reasonable indication. There's also preparation beforehand, where you look at the high pressure maps and you might see a high pressure sitting directly over your location. Now, when you see that, that is almost a sure sign that you may encounter, and I say may, it's not always the case, but most often you'll see good seeing of the order of 6 to 8 out of 10 on any given night. Most commonly around 7 out of 10 when there's a high pressure sitting over. Now, the reason behind that is because the jet stream, which usually sort of interacts and crosses over Australia quite a lot, will tend to be pushed out of the way by a high pressure column that's going upwards. It will also mean that there's no localised wind currents that can affect the quality of that scene. So you just want to make sure that when you're looking up and looking at the maps, you're looking for those key features. Also, get a bit of a handle on some of the weather prediction stuff for Jetstream. They're actually very good, and you just want to make sure that you're looking well. Now, all that's all good in theory, but it all boils down to what things look like when you're imaging. So in terms of capture, my preference is to use a program called Fire Capture. It's probably the most commonly used amongst planetary images these days. Back in the day, we used a few other programs that that are no longer available, but are no longer updated. So there's no point much talking about them. But over the period of time I've been imaging the planets in digital format is from about 2004 onwards. Things have changed dramatically. This program is very good. It has a lot of really interesting features. It shows you the histogram. You can change a multitude of aspects of what you want to do. You can even guide with this program, and it guides on the planet, just using the planet. You don't need a guide scope. It'll just guide by itself. You do need to use a ST4 cable back to your mount, but it will guide if your mount's a little bit out of it, moves around a bit. I'd just like to say, though, if you do have a bit of movement, in your guiding, that's very good because it acts like a dither and obviously produces fixed pattern lines. So things you want to think about with capture is don't worry about high gain. A lot of people are concerned about high gain. I use like very high gain in my image because I'm not concerned about the high gain. The high gain will produce lots of noise, but the noise will get cancelled out by the signal. One thing you do need to worry about, though, is exposure. Keep your exposures as low down as possible so it helps with creating a higher frame rate. Very, very important. And, of course, as I said, histogram must be at 3/4. Now, that's the same for colour or for RGB. So you'd need to set up each, if you're doing RGB and perhaps IR on Mars, for instance, you need to set up all those before you start a run. This program will also, if you've got an automatic electronic filter wheel, it automatically rotate. Once it's set up, rotate the filter wheel and set the exposure. It's basically a click and forget sort of motion, and then it'll return you back to your starting position at the end of each run. Sometimes people ask me how long do you image each run for? Well, there is some planetary constraints. There are some programs now that help to eliminate some of these problems, but my general sort of theory is I work to somewhere between 45 and 60 frames per 60 frames per second, 60 frames per channel for Jupiter. For Saturn, about 2 minutes per channel for Jupiter. So if you're looking at colour, you'd be saying something like 180 seconds for a colour camera. So just add those all together. Saturn's a little bit dimmer than Jupiter, so it needs to go a little bit longer. If you want to capture detail on Saturn, you have to be mindful that you might get some blurring, but a program called WinJupos, which I'll speak about briefly in a moment, will help eliminate that. And of course, Mars, which has a similar rotational period to Earth, can be imaged quite a lot longer. So 2 minutes per channel is fine, and current frame rates, I think I'm getting for Mars around 70 to 80 frames per second. Even as it's moving away from us now, or we're moving away from from Mars. Jupiter, of course, is around 60 frames per second, but Saturn is a little bit more difficult. The frame rates tend to be, they're dictated by your gain, your exposure, and also the diameter of your telescope. Finally, I just want to talk briefly about WinJupos. It's been around for quite some time. It's been used for some research programs for nearly 20 odd years through the British Astronomical Society, developed primarily with them in mind and by some of the key members of that. It's a really interesting program because it does allow you to do what's called derotation. I'll show you briefly what happens with that when we do a process. But you can go from 5 to 20 minutes. Now, you can either derotate individual videos or you can derotate individual frames, like if you're doing an RGB sequence, or you can derotate a colour image, a series of colour images, and that's where I'm going to show you today. I've tried each of them. My preference is, in this instance, to show you 4 colour images that will be derotated around a period of around 11 to 12 minutes. Of course, once you've captured your data, you've had perfect, near perfect seeing, captured your data. The next part is the process of processing the data. Now, there's a number of ways of doing it, but most people stick with a program called Autostack 3. Autostack 3, quite a good program. has a lot of interesting features to it and a lot of click and forget sort of setup to it. It'll produce 2 images generally. You can either use another program called Astra Image 2, which is my preference, or Astra Image 3 now. I'm not sure what it's up to now, but it basically does deconvolution, or you can use Registacks, or you can use a combination of Registacks and Astra Image to do individual sharpening. Then finally we use WinGPOS to produce a final stacked image and derotated image, and then some Photoshop processing to go in it. Probably not going to have time today to do some Photoshop processing, but perhaps we will. We'll just see how we go.
Got a question for you, Paul. We've
Sure.
got Andrew saying your frame rate seems quite low to me. I imaged Jupiter at 150 frames per second, Saturn at 100 frames per second, and Mars at 250 frames per second with my ASSA 224 MC.
That's fair enough comment. It's probably using my workstation that I use is about 7 or 8 years old now. It doesn't have a dedicated USB port, but I'm using a SSD that's within the computer in the laptop. So yeah, that's probably highly likely. Like I said, everything like that is individual components will dictate what you can end up with the throughput. So yes, you could get that, and don't forget also that color camera performance is obviously going to be a bit different. But I'd suggest that those frame rates are indicative of using a dedicated USB 3 port on a laptop. So yeah,
there we go. That explains the difference.
Okay, so now I'm just going to get out of this now. We'll just move out of here. We'll go, just going to stop sharing that briefly. So, okay.
So yeah, he's saying he's using a USB 3. So
sorry?
That's that. He says he uses a USB 3.
That answers that question quite well. So, okay. Now let's go. I'm just trying to set this all up again. So first up, what we might do is we'll just go and have a look at a few examples of seeing first. This is this one here, and I'm just going to share that. Windows Media Player. Here we go. Player.
There we go. Got it.
Can you see? Is it happening?
Yeah, it's on the screen now. Nothing there right now. I think what you've got to do, you need to dump the Windows Media Player into, sort of drag it into Google Chrome. It has a bit of a hissy fit.
I don't have that actually, and I've never had that problem for some reason. Hang on. All right, let's just try this again. See if I can get this to work.
Give it another go, hey?
No, that's still not showing for some reason. Here we go. It's not showing.
Let's try that. There we go. So I can see your Windows Media Player.
Yeah. I can't. It's blank screen on here too. That's very disappointing because we never had this problem last couple of weeks back when we did this.
No, and it's the same system you guys are using. I've just thrown a question out to Noel to see if he can give us a hand with working out what's going on there. Bear with us.
Bear with us, sports fans.
While we're trying to work that, I just wanted to let everybody know that the raffle tickets are selling quite well now. We've had a few more purchases since we started our stream, so keep those coming if you're interested in winning one of those prizes. Here we go. That looks a bit better. No, it's blue this time.
No, it's blue. It's weird, strange. I don't understand why that's doing that. And that's a bit disappointing because the videos that I do have demonstrate some quite good seeing. So
let's while we're trying to work that out, did you want to quickly let's work in the modern world? Flick an email to me because Noel's just told me how I can get it working, and I can do it from my end. So if you want to flick that in an email to me,
all right, I'll try that,
and then we'll continue on, and I'll let you know once I've got it up and running.
Oh, you mean send it to you? Is that what you're suggesting?
Send it to me in an email, and I'll
see how that goes. I don't know if that's going to work, but anyway, we'll try. Do an attachment.
We'll do better than the Victorian contact tracing system. We won't use paper and fax machines. We'll use email.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. There's one. I'm going to have to do it again. So, there's a couple of videos here. No, the other one's 370 meg. They ain't going to go across.
That's all right.
Well, anyway, the one that is 14 meg, that should do. That'll demonstrate good seeing for us, and it's been loaned to me by a friend of mine. So we'll talk about it briefly.
All right. So we'll keep running through, and once that come in, I'll get that one up and running. We can have a look at that. But if you wanted to jump on to the next part,
will do. Just manipulating a few things here, right?
It's all right.
Okay, so we'll go to there. Just need to share that screen. Autostack at 3.
All right, here we go. We'll get you.
And we're blank again.
We're blank again. This is interesting. Are you using Google Chrome?
No, I can't. Can't use it. All right. So, okay. We're just going to do a brief intermission. I'm going to leave and I'll come back and I'll restart. So, sorry about this, but I think that's the cause of the problem. Okay, I'll be back shortly.
Bear with us, everyone. We'll, you can look at my ugly mug for a few minutes, hey? And we'll talk a little bit about the prizes. So, as I said, we've got 2 raffles. We have the Ioptron Cube Pro with the tripod, and we have the Star Adventurer 2i photo kit raffle. Still tickets available. They're both going to be drawn this evening, and they're both amazing prizes to win. So let's not much I can do actually. Oh, would you look at this? We've got the video. So I'm going to get this video going, and then we can let's do it the tricky way. Let's try and see if we can get this thing working, hey? Do a drag and drop. That didn't work the way I wanted it to. No, it doesn't seem to be working. So let's hope Paul comes back pretty soon. I might just put us on some hold for the moment, guys. So bear with us for a second. Oh, we're back.
Okay, back. Let's see if we can resolve this issue.
Technical difficulties.
There's always technical difficulties. Always.
We don't have technical difficulties. Have we even done it right?
Yeah. All right, let's try this. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it's not going to work. I don't know why. I think this is last time we did a talk this way. We used Zoom, which seemed to, which probably helped. But anyway, let's just try and see if I can get it to work, because it's going to be a bit hard to give a talk if we can't get this to work. Yeah, it's not working again. Well, it's very difficult. That's supposed to be Autostack, unfortunately.
So Autostack, it should work. Are you going in through the specific program under share screen? You can do an application window or a Chrome tab as well if you wanted to. So you don't have Chrome, do you?
No, Chrome doesn't work with my system, and I don't know why. Let me just try and see if I can get it to work with Chrome. Yeah, we had all sorts of problems. We had freezing up and everything with Chrome. Lovely. I love how this sort of thing can often be a problem. So I'll try. I'll just copy that. Copy shortcut. See if I can walk in that way.
So I think Addie's saying if you try and start a Zoom session, the problem with that is you can only push it to one place. Which at the moment we're streaming on the ASV's Facebook, ASSA's Facebook, ASSA YouTube, and ASV YouTube. So unfortunately, Zoom doesn't allow us to do that. It's very limited in what it can do, which is why we're using StreamYard so that we can push to all of those different locations. So that's the other one. So someone's suggesting that maybe the permissions are not allowing desktop sharing at the moment. So I'm not sure whether that would be, that definitely is not at my end.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at speakers, okay, that one there. Let's just try that.
Transfer the file to a Google Drive. I think that, I'm not sure that would work either. So the other suggestion is, do you have Firefox? That might work.
Yeah, that's what I've been using. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And check the permissions and everything. So yeah. Okay, speakers. Okay. Let's try that.
I'd do it at this end, but I don't know how to do it.
It's all right. Hopefully we'll get past it. I'm just trying to enter the studio now with Google. Right. Okay. Just
I've got your screen.
Okay. Now.
Oh, look at that. Stuart has come up with a brilliant idea. A Zoom meeting between you and I, and then share your screen to or I could share your screen to StreamYard while it's running. It's actually not a bad idea. Very, very quick thinking, that one.
Okay, right. Let's try this. So now I'm in. I think I'm in Google, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna try this. I don't know. Every time I have this, it's always something weird happens. So I'll try it. Okay. So, patient sports fans, very sorry, but I will try. Let's see what happens here. Share screen. Share screen. What'd you say? Application window.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to go to share screen.
Media player. Share screen.
Yeah.
Still nothing.
Still nothing. Can you share it in the Google Chrome tab?
Okay. How do I do that? Just tell me how I do that, and I'll give it a try.
You should be able to drag and drop it into the stream.
Drag and drop it. Okay, drag and drop the actual thing. Right.
Yeah, the file should drag and drop into the stream. I tried to do it, but it didn't like the AVI file for me.
The file. Okay, so grab that. Even
QuickTime didn't like the AVI file for me. They should be able to just drag and drop.
Chrome tab. Okay, rightio. Right, I've got that open there. Let's try that. Drop that across to there. Perhaps. No, I don't know. This is not working out.
No, it's not, unfortunately.
Let's try that. Oh, they stuck it.
VLC is a good media player if all else fails. We're getting good advice here. Thanks, guys.
That's
for bearing with us on this.
Sort of helpful, but we're not getting anywhere.
No, we're not.
That's supposed to be Autostack it as well. So let's have a look up here.
Did you want to try a Zoom where we could throw it in through here?
Yeah, we can do that. But I don't have a Zoom account.
I'll just send you a link you can open up in a tab.
All right, let's try that.
Let's try that, shall we? Let's see if we can work with some weird, bizarre technology.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
As long as I mute myself, because I don't need to see me. I'll just send it to you in StreamYard chat. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Now, it's like chasing a little cat chasing a spot. Okay, try that.
I reckon this might work actually.
Should start in a few seconds. Meeting. Launch meeting. Open. Thank you. Let's go away. Go away. Launch meeting.
There we go.
There we go. Yay. Okay. Now I've got to go back there.
So once this is in, I'll be able to just I'll just be able to here we go. So if you want to share your screen,
I'll start video too.
so mute your sound in Zoom.
Share screen. Here we go.
So if you mute your sound in I can actually mute you as well anyway. I'll mute you. All right, so now.
Yep.
All right, I will share your screen to StreamYard now. Look at that. We've got it working, guys. Application window.
Okay.
Right, no, not that one. We don't want to share that one.
Yeah, I'm going to move this one. Hang on, I'm going to move that to here.
Let's get Noel in. Noel. Give us a bit of a hand here.
So what's going on?
We're struggling with...
Right. Okay. Now I've moved that across.
You need to mute yourself in Zoom, Paul.
Okay. All right, doing that. Hang on. Just finding. Oh. Yeah. Stop video. Where are you? Stop sharing. And then, where is that? Mute. Okay. All right. So, can everyone hear? Now I can just share screen. Can you guys hear me? Because I can't hear you.
Well, I can hear you, Paul.
You can hear me? Good. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Share screen. Oh, no. It's in Zoom. That's what I want. God. This is getting very complicated.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I need to get back into that Zoom now. So, Noel, we're having issues. Sorry, Paul, I've got to redo this.
All right.
We're having issues with Paul's stacker connecting into... there you go, there's the new one.
Okay. Which one's that one? 1103, 1107. Okay. Try that. There we go. Watch meeting.
Sorry, guys, my computer had a hissy fit. We're back now.
Okay. Okay. Cannot start video. Or not.
You need to share the screen to Zoom first.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm just it's getting rather complicated.
I know. Yeah.
Right, hang on. Now I think I've got a handle on what's going on here. Go over there, share the screen, share.
Screen sharing has started. Right, so now I'm going to share your screen. Here we go. Can we see that? Oh.
Yay!
There we go, everyone.
Okay, all right, so let's get back to it. Where were we? Seeing. Right, so this is this video was so you can see the Jupiter screen sort of there. It's sort of wobbling just ever so slightly. On my frame, it's this is a little slower at your end. That's how it looks anyway. But this data was taken in 2008 during some exceptional seeing that I obtained here in Adelaide. You can see there's very good detail even in the bands and the belts and all that sort of thing. So it's you know, as it presented like that, I was obviously quite excited, and the data was even then was produced a very sharp image. Now going, let's see, go back out of there, back to there. This is some data from a chap called Anthony Wesley. Can you see that, Mark?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. All right. This data is, and everything's all about the speed of transmission, of course, but this is a blue channel. So blue channel is always very difficult to to obtain very exceptional data. But this data is very, very nice and very clean, and it's all to do with the scene. So the scene here is this is 10 out of 10 scene. So then finally what I'll do is I'll just show you the sort of scene that we're going to process today, which is clearly not as good. However, as you can see, a bit more jittery, but there is some reasonable seeing there, some reasonable detail already showing in the video.
So this is your image that you've taken?
This is my data here, yeah. The previous video was taken by Anthony Wesley at Exmouth in 2010. Now, one of the things that we noticed was during the height of the drought, the seeing in Australia got incredibly good in quite a lot of places.
We should have
and that's
drought then.
moisture vapor in the atmosphere. So
Right.
the drier the atmosphere, the better. As you can see, there's quite good moments here and there where it's producing reasonably sharp data. Okay, we'll get off that because that's not.
So Stuart wants to know, with this image you've got there, what size telescope did you use to take that, to get this data?
This video is a C14. I'm using a 2x power mate with a, and if you can show me briefly, with a ZWO camera.
Oh, hang on a second. We'll bring you up. Let's bring us. There we go. So with that camera there,
the ZW camera, and with the extension here on the end and the Barlow, gives me about 11,000 millimeters, 11,000 to 12,000 millimeters. Okay, it's an automatic electronic filter wheel and ZW 174. Okay, right. Now I'm just going to cancel that. I'll stop sharing that. And we'll get that out of the way. Just knock that over.
I'll bring us back up for the moment till you're ready to put the next one up.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I've got to remember where I am. I've got two screens, but there's several things going on at that.
It's the same at my end. Don't worry about that. That's for sure.
It's like chaos. I think
Lee reckons we need another 6 months of lockdown to iron out the screen sharing wrinkles. I'm done with lockdown, Lee. I don't want it anymore.
No, right. That's not the right one. Sorry, I need to go to the right one. Where is it? That one. There. Okay, right. You got to have this. Oh.
Whoops. Add to stream. Here we go. Fire capture.
Okay, now that is the wrong one. Why is that the wrong one? Hang on. I need to go back.
That's okay. You go back.
Okay.
That's why we have gaps between the sessions. So if you have technical difficulties, we just run a bit longer.
Is that one there open? I think that's the one. Let's go share. Right. Okay.
That's the one you want.
Yeah. Right.
Perfect.
Okay. Let me go back out here. Right. Okay. Fire capture. So fire capture has a number of components. The previous window that you might have seen has some components to it, which I'll show you in a moment. But essentially speaking, open a video. So we're just going to open a video here. Go out of there and we'll go into Jupyter, and we're just going to do a quick process. Right, now, for some reason, you can only share one thing at a time. So first things first. So I'll just run through a few things on this left panel, and then the right panel we'll look at. Some of the settings that I like is I prefer image stabilization, use Planet Cog. I like with the estimator, I like to use Laplace, and they're sort of fairly standard. You can use global, you can use AP, but I like the AP, local AP, simply because I think it produces a better result. Now, if I just go out of there and go stop sharing, and then go share the other side, which shows the other side of the screen, which is that side there. Let's try that.
Here we go.
Okay, so that shows the planet. Now, when I press analyze, so before you do any placing of the panels over the top of the planet, analyze first. I use auto, so you can't actually see that happening at the moment, but I'll just stop screen sharing there, and we'll go backwards and forwards a bit, I think. Oops, hang on, cancel. Go back. There's so many things going on here. Go back to, where am I here?
I've just had to shut down half the things running in the background so that my computer doesn't have another hissy fit. There we go, some processing going on.
Right, so there's some frames being processed here. Now there's a number of, this is just analyzing the data, okay? So I'll stop there again, I'll reshare again, going backwards and forwards a bit.
You'll be an expert at this by the time that we finish.
I doubt it, but anyway. Right, okay. Let me have a look at that. Right, maybe what I need to do is go and drop that in there and grab that one and drop that over there. Right, okay. Next thing we want to do here is looking at a number of things. You can change the panel size. So when it says AP, I like these two settings, replace and multi-scale. And so you put that on there, it produces quite a lot of panels. And that number's probably a little bit too small. I've been using this with Mars, so I'm actually going to push that up to about 72, and we'll just have a look there. All this sort of relevant detail here is just all standard, really. How you capture is up to you, whether you use FITS or SRE files, or just standard video format, JPEG format. It's really up to you. Some things on the other panel, which I'll show you just briefly once we get going. I'll just click the start button. So that matter there now. Go out of there. Right. Okay. Where am I? Where am I? I'm trying to find where I am now. Oh, you can't see. That's why. Oh dear.
Can you share your entire desktop? Oh, look at that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so there's, yeah, for some reason it won't share back if I move it off the other screen. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Sorry about that.
That looks quite impressive. So what are we looking at here?
Right, so this is, all it's done is it's stacked all these squares. So that these squares are actually little panels that the program, the algorithm, just looks for the sharpest panels available. And so you can see here that, like I said, there's the different either FITS, SRE. It's all automatic, really. I just changed from 48, which was here, and when I click there, you get a lot more smaller panels. Yeah. And yes, there is some element. It will take longer to process, but for our purposes today, I'm just going to use that standard. I've chosen to use multi-scale, so it actually makes little boxes to pick up the sharp detail, and then much bigger boxes to pick up areas of sharper detail. My personal preference is this way. Now, if I just stop sharing that for a moment and then go over to here again and go share to there. Okay, so we're back there. Good day. Right, so looking at a number of things here, the quality graph will dictate where we're coming from. So my general preference when we get to this stage is usually use 40 frames, 40% for quality, or go down a bit lower if the seeing's better. The seeing on this data is not bad. It's about 7 to 8 generally out of 10. I like some of these components here. Some people don't do this. They use normalize. The choice is up to you. Just experiment a little bit. Like sharpened blend raw plus 50%. And what that will do will give me 2 lots of data, and I'll show you briefly when we get to that. So we're just going to do one little stack here, and then we'll move on to the next section. You can use Drizzle if you like, 1.5 up, or Resample. They're 2 distinctly different types of upscaling of your data. Yeah, and I found intermittent results that sometimes work, sometimes they don't. It really depends on the quality of the data. So once we've done that, we just press the stack button.
So what's the difference between a drizzle and a resample? So what does a drizzle do?
Well, resample is just straight resampling, but Drizzle does a few calculations in the background, quite a few that apparently provide a larger upscaling of the data. But I've never found it to be terribly accurate myself, and it's not my personal preference. Someone else who's a bit more tech savvy might actually understand that concept a little better, but and might be able to provide some explanation. As you can see here, it's going through a number of target aspects in providing the image. So it's now produced an image, and it will dump that image into another area. Let me just get rid of that. So for before we go any further, you would process all the data all the way through to obtain your basic images. So whether it's color, you produce your color images just as basic. But in this case, I'm doing red, green, and blue. So I'll produce a red frame, a green frame, and a blue frame.
Yeah.
And those images will look
go back to this.
Yeah, right. So you can either go. What I'll do is I'll do that first. Now this same data is what we were just looking at, what we processed. So I'm just going over here. Where are we? That one. Okay. All right. So you can see that.
Yep.
Okay, so this image, this is unsharpened at all, right? So you can, at this stage, you can choose to use registacks to do some wavelet sharpening. And before we move on to the next stage, my personal preference is I actually prefer to use this one here. The slightly sharpened data.
Yep.
And as you can see, that the difference is quite dramatic. Now, for me personally, I like this method of deconvolution. I used to use wavelets quite a lot, but I found it produces quite blocky looking data, which is great. It has high contrast and all that sort of thing, but it just isn't as good, in my opinion. It doesn't give you that looking out through a porthole seeing quality.
That looks good. You can see the detail in that already.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of detail there. So that's an initial starting point. So I can already see that this data is actually not bad seeing quality. So we'll get rid of that.
But what would you call that seeing quality? Would that be obviously?
That's about seven out of 10. Maybe 8 in some, like the green on that might show a bit better quality. Now go out of there and go into, where am I? Out of there, images, right. Okay, that's one thing I didn't do. Right, now I'm going to have to do some stuff in the background while I'm waiting for, and I'll show you the next bit. Right, okay. I'm going to go to there, share screen. Extra image. Oh, okay. We've got that up?
Yep.
So this is Astra Image 2.5. Is that what it says on the screen? Because I actually can't see at the moment.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Top left corner, right. Astra Image 2.5 Max.
Okay, all right. This is a program that I use to do further sharpening, and also just going to, where are we? We're in here in videos, and to reassemble images. So in the background, what's going on currently that you can't see, and I am, I've just inadvertently shared that, I think. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's all right. We'll go back out of that. Okay, I'm still sort of processing some data in the background so we can do a quick put together. First thing you need to do is convert to grayscale before you can do any sharpening. That actually does a bit of a limited sort of stretch. So this, hence the reason for the histogram control early on when you're in your capture, because once the histogram gets too stretched, it's very hard to manage the blowouts. There are a number of ways that you can use deconvolution programs. There is maximum entropy like this one. There is, and I'm assuming you can see that. Is that right? Can you still see that, Mark?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
See Richardson deconvolution. This produces quite fine detail, so have to use that very sparingly with the number of iterations up here and a very reasonable curve. So just by way of example, I might do 3 iterations at 1.6 on the curve radius, and it'll go through and do that, and it'll produce a little bit sharper again. Or with maximum entropy, I might use 9 iterations, 1.6 again, and just try that, and let that go through and do that. Now, while that's doing that, I'm just going to, that's done that, so I'll just get rid of that. And I will start that again. Got to do the blue channel as well. Okay, so you can sort of see it looks a little bit more blocky on the maximum entropy. A little at Lucy Richardson, which is a little bit more contrasty, and the Lucy Richardson is a little sharper by look. In this instance, we'll just use Lucy Richardson. So a good idea when you're using this program is to rename your panels as you go, otherwise you get a bit confused about what's going on.
I was just going to ask what the Lucy Richardson is.
Yeah, it's just Lucy Richardson is the algorithm for the sharpening. So
while you're doing that, with Stuart Beveridge has got a question saying the ZWA ASI 174 has a pixel size of 5.86. Have you considered using something like a ZWA ASI 290 so you can reduce your focal length?
Oh, absolutely. I've thought about doing that, and that would be good if I wanted to spend even more money. But not to be rude or anything, there is always the cost considerations. Yes, it might be actually more difficult to do that for me, because I'd have to go down to a 1.5 times Barlow. I have a 1.5, but my preference is to use, just excuse me for a moment, I'm still doing some blue, doing a blue stack. My preference personally is to use a Teleview Barlow personally. Convert this to grayscale. So I'm just doing the green here, doing the deconvolution for the green, and you can sort of mix and match this. You can use maximum entropy or Lucy Richardson decon. This program is available in a upgraded version of it now. I bought this program about 10 years ago. It still works on Windows 7. I'm not sure if it'll work on Windows 10, but it is still available. Change that to green. So you can see.
What's the version cost? What does it cost to get this program?
I think I initially paid a couple $100 for it, so I'm not even sure what the version cost for it is now. Like anything in astronomy, it seems like there's always a a constant amount of money being sucked out of your bank account. It's just ridiculous how much money you can spend.
As the guys were saying last night, the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole. That's exactly right. It is a monstrous rabbit hole. Right. So you can see here with this one, with this blue channel here, it is a little. The quality is not quite as good, and that will require a different methodology in my processing. And
so I've just been told that the new version 5.5, is US $42.
Oh, there you go. See, that's even better.
Come down in price.
Come down in price. That's right. So just doing a maximum entropy decon for the blue, just so it doesn't get too speckly. And now we're just waiting on that. Do a lot of looking at watching progress meters. Okay, so that's actually not bad. Reasonably happy with that. Get rid of that now, and we will rename that just for the sake of expedience. Okay, right. So now we have all three channels present. Red, green, and blue. Now, if you look carefully at them, they actually all look quite different.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, they have little tonal changes, and each one has different looks to it, different sharpening, and different detail looks. So to put these together, you need to actually use this RGB combine process. Luckily enough, these days, Autostack it is really good because it actually puts together all the images almost perfectly, excepting, of course, if you look at high resolution, you can sort of see some fringing going on here. So
not quite lining up, something sitting below the others.
Lining up. So part of that, you need to do a bit of an investigation and move back a pixel or so, find out where we are. No, that's in the wrong way. So we go to that way. Okay, well, that looks a bit better. Looking at the bottom of the planet, that's more blue there, and that's more red. So we're just going to try a little bit of an experiment. Maybe green as well. We might do that as well.
So it's also about having a keen eye to be able to pick this sort of stuff up.
Yeah, looking carefully, looking carefully, because the better that this is all put together, the sharper the detail will appear. So, in my normal processing habit, I would spend a lot more time than I am now. I'm still not happy with that red up there, so I'm just going to push that down a bit in the y-axis. That's not too bad. Looks quite sharp, that detail. You can also change the actual the intensity of each of the channels using it one, or you can use say, for instance, if it had a slight green cast, you could go 03 or something like that, and then change that, and you can see straight away it changes how that looks. So if you get, for dramatic purposes, let's go to 0.2, and it goes red. Is that evident on your end?
Yeah, you can definitely see the red.
Yeah, so go back to there. That looks more normal. If you've got pretty good color acuity anyway, this is less of a problem, but for some people who have a bit of color perception problems, it might be an issue. Once you're all happy with that, how it looks, we just go okay. Now, I'm not overly happy with that because there is a bit of a red cast on that image. So what I might do,
it does have a bit of red to it, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So I'm just going to pop that aside there. I'm going to go there again and see, and it's because I left that 0.1 in place. Now that's better. Now see, colors look a bit better. Looks a bit more even. It's what it should be.
A simple change, isn't it? Just that one little
very subtle. Yeah, very subtle. Now, let's say you have a run of 4 or 5 of these images that are all close together within, say, 12 to 15 minutes or up to 20 minutes. You've got to make sure all these look very similar in color and reasonable detail level. I like to sharpen this at this point, just a little bit more sharpening with an unsharp mask, about 1.7, and that really gives it a bit more punch. You can see here.
You can see the difference already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of starting to come together, right? That on its own, on the left-hand side, is a really acceptable image. So you could be happy with that. Okay, so we'll go out of Astra Image now that let's say we've got 3 or 4 of these. I'll just stop sharing that, and I'll eliminate that. We've got 3 or 4 images, and I'll just get that up and open. And let's go back over here to the other screen. Screen sharing. Okay, images. Yeah, right. Sorry. No, sorry. I won't do that. Go there. Now I have 4 images here, and I'll just run through them. Share screen. Which one is it? Where are you? There. Okay. All right. So as I flick through them, you'll notice that the planet is slowly rotating. Yeah. Is that obvious?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep. You can definitely see that.
Yeah. So that means that in order to use all this data, I need to use a program called WinJupos. So we'll just go and open that. Get rid of that. Go to open WinJupos. And then I'll go to share screen again. This is really interesting doing this. I've never thought that we could do this. This is something that our team will adopt, no doubt, if we have troubles like this in the future.
It solved the problem, didn't it?
It did solve the problem. So whoever thought of that, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
I think it was a joint effort between quite a few of the viewers.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're at WinJupos. There is a much more current version, and I need to upload it, but it's 11.3. Some controls up here that you sort of need to know. You need to be able to pick the planet that you're doing. So in this case, we'll pick Jupiter, but you could pick Mars, and it's important for recording the information. So what you're doing with this is we're actually going to record and measure each of the images.
Okay, yep.
That we've recorded. Okay, so those images I showed you before, those 4 I showed you before, I've got them sort of lined up in an area. The important things to notice down the bottom here, you'll see that I've named, my naming convention is in UT. So part of that is when you record the data, you get a UT time frame for the center of the run, the imaging run. It'll tell you where the center is. You always use the central part of the run, whether it be a color image or whether it be a black or white image. In this case, I'm just using the black and white of the color image that I've produced, but I know the center of it, the green channel, was taken at 11:07:08 UT. So 8.2 UT. So up here on the left-hand side, first things you do, of course, is you select the image. The second thing is you select the date. So that's the date that this data was taken. I think that's right.
15th of September.
I think that's correct. I'm just checking.
No, that's all right. Got to make sure it's right.
I think that's right. Is that right? Data. So we can find the properties of that date. Actually, I can't really tell that because it's probably the day after. Yeah, and I've moved it. All right. Okay, let's not worry about that. So the date, I think it is right. I think that's 15th of the 9th. The time is 11:07, and because it's 8.2, I've gone 0.1. The next thing to look at here, don't worry too much about longitude, geographical longitude and latitude. There is some difference, but only very minor. You'll notice here the little round circle, that's EO, right? So
Okay, so it's picked
EO,
up a moon.
right? It's picked up a moon. You make sure that your moon is fairly, the position of it. I know already that that's fairly close. Down here, it's a bit hard to tell with the, around the edge of this frame here. It's hard to tell whether I'm actually centered properly. So
it looks like it's a bit off to the right.
It does look a little bit that way, but when you use this LD compensation,
it does.
You can see that that's right. Now, if I click on here and then I use the arrow keys, for instance, it should show me what's going on here.
Oh, look at that.
So that's pretty close, up and down. Just try and make sure that that's near perfect. The better that is, the actual alignment, the better the recording of the information. Now, I've already used automatic to detect, so normally this frame, this outline will be somewhere else. You can use additional stuff to help, so you could use additional graphics that, in this case, will show the belts, and that's roughly lines up where the belts, where the margins of the belts are.
So we have a question for you. What does the LD angle do?
LD compensation. It's just it's just a means of just pushing up the brightness phase to make it all even all the way around, so you can actually see where the edge of the planet is.
Okay, there we go.
And then I always click it off. You can, I think you can use both, but it wouldn't be my preference to do that personally. There are a number of other things to note here. The CM1, CM2, and CM3. These are different regions of the planet at which the image was taken at. They're important for informing, GPOS, for instance, GPOS program. If you're going to contribute to their science program, you need to have that data recorded. So it'll tell you all sorts of interesting information. There's the position, there's some positioning stuff, and some miscellaneous. Most of this stuff you just need to investigate for yourself, but that's essentially the easiest part of how to use WinGPOS as the measurement side of it. So let's just look at this. We will just go and save this. Well, actually, what I'll do is, what is that? Let's run 5. Okay, we'll use that data later. So I'm just going to, I would normally save it, and it would save that as that time frame. So I think this is in run 3 or something. Go and have a look in there. No, I've got a bunch of runs here that so it's in this one here. This is where I would normally save it. You can see it's saved that way. So you would go through all 4 of them and doing that and saving as you go along, and then you would open up the next one, do the same sort of thing. You put in the right time. Now you can see here EO has moved again. So you need to put in the right time. It's got to be 11. And then that's 0.2. Thereabouts. And you can see the circle has moved over the top of EO. Again, save. Make sure that your positioning is 100% accurate. Right. The more accurate all the positioning is, the better the recording will be. Once you've recorded all your data, then next is you want to actually derotate. So you go into Tools, down to Derotation of Images, and it will bring you up to, I'm just going to remove all these because these are from a previous imaging session, processing session, and I'm going to add. So I'm going to go to run 3 because that's where I was looking before, and I'm going to use these 4 images here. These are all, each one has been are an image measurement as we did before. I'm going to bring them all up here. It gives me an average time of about 11.3. Now I know that I could actually add another one of these targets here to get, oh, actually, I used the wrong one. Which one is that? 0.4 is that one? I think I need to remove that. This is what happens when you go to use data that's already been processed. The reason behind that is because what's happened is that underscore one.
Yep.
That is actually a frame that this has already produced. So I'll use that one there, 0.6.3. Okay, that'll give me 1112.0. I could add another one just for value, and that would be that one there. And that will give me 11 minutes, 11 hours, 13.4. That gives a reasonable spread. This little diagram here, it shows some quite interesting information. I prefer to use TIFFs. You can use PNGs, whatever you like. It's really up to you. Bitmaps, PNGs, TIFFs are my preference, and you don't actually notice a lot of difference, to be honest. And then the last thing you do, so once you've selected all these and you think you're around the right time frame of 15 odd minutes, then you compile the image, and it will compile it. It'll go through and compile that, and it won't take very long because most of this data has already been produced, and voila, you have
your end result,
derotated image. From there, there are a number of things that you can do. So I'm just going to get out of there, just stop that, and I'm going to images. No, don't know where I've put that. That must be somewhere else. Where are you? Right, let me just find that. It's in here. I think I've gone all the way back into there. 3. Look at. Here we go. Let's go share that.
Okay, back to full screen again.
Sorry. Yeah. Right. Okay. So that's what the image sort of looks like. Now, my preference here is to use Astra Image again. So what I'll do is I will stop screen, and I'll share that screen, and I'll put up Astra Image again, because there's always more you can more detail you can eke out of an image. Let's go back to there. Let's go back to just grabbing this. Yeah. You can do a little bit more sharpening, and we'll use about 1.4 this time, just to have a look. Again, a bit of an experiment as to how much you want to sharpen it. So 1.8. Okay, reasonably happy with the 1.8.
You can see the difference there, the sharpness.
Yeah, it does. It over the course of the whole processing run, and this is why I think deconvolution is better than wavelets. It looks more natural to me, like you're looking out of a portal. Now, I'm not overly happy with the size of that. I'd like that to be a little bit bigger. So I might just resample that up to let's try 600 and see what that looks like. That's a bit bigger. That's a bit more impressive. Notably, not as sharp. So again, a tiny amount of sharpening. Don't want to sharpen it too much. There's a bit of a fine line. Okay, and then we would save that. The next step after that, of course, is to go into Photoshop, which I don't believe we've got enough time to do that now.
No, unfortunately we don't. Unfortunately.
But as you can see, you can, given good quality seeing, you can go
pretty impressive image.
Yeah, to get something fairly reasonable. I think just look, finally, I'll show you that image after I've sharpened it in Photoshop and processed it a little more. Let's have a look here. Got it here somewhere. There's one here that is actually not too bad. And then I'm going to go there again, just remembering to do all the things that you do.
All the different steps to get through.
Different steps. Okay.
There we go.
Let's just pop that there, so that's a bit nicer looking. So as you can see here, the detail is regarding the central meridians, the various belts. So naming detail, time. It's got 11 minutes on it, so that's an 11-minute process of 11 minutes worth of data. What we're seeing was 7 out of 10, the F ratio of the telescope camera and the telescope I used, and that's pretty much it. That's in spite of all of our difficulties today, that's how you get to.
Been a pretty handy little session in the end.
Pretty decent detail, yeah. So where am I? Stop screen. Yes, okay. Just trying to find out where I am again there.
That's all right. So I think what we're going to do. Yeah. So thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody for bearing with us through the technical difficulties we had. I think what we're going to do is just sort of end it on one of the ASSA awards videos that goes for about I think a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and then I'm going to go grab a quick drink of water and we'll start jumping into the astrophotography session. So for those who are keen to watch that, stick around. We'll have another live stream starting in less than 10 minutes by the looks of it. So let's get this little video started.
Thanks, guys.